Hi everybody, Ben here from Art Less Ordinary. So I am going to do another one of my half pearl pour, half straight pour pours. So this is the one that I did in aquamarine, sapphire and silver. So it's hard to always know how good you guys can see that, but lots of pearls have come up. With this part here's the straight pour, this part here's the pearl pour, and more straight pour around the edges. It looks really good in the sunlight. So it's quite a nice piece. It looks a bit like a water cave. So I'm going to do another one of these, but I'm doing it on a round canvas, and I'm using purples and purple and silver this time. So I'm hoping it to look a bit like an amethyst geode, but it will turn out different. When you do these, depending on how much you do it as a straight pour and how much you do it as a pearl pour, it will have a different look to it. But that's the fun part. You don't always know exactly how they're going to turn out. So I have sterling silver, I have lavender frost, and I have amethyst. So they're two purples and a silver, all a bit different, but they will blend quite well together. So that's the three colours I have, and they're all extreme sheen in the deco art, and they're mixed 10 grams paint to 10 grams Australian floetrol. So it doesn't really matter how much paint and how much floetrol, as long as it's the same amount. So it's hard to show a consistency because I use these little circle sticks to kind of mix. I find they're a bit easier in these small cups, because I only make up what I'm going to use. Then I have marte black. You can use Liquitex Basics. You can use other brands. Not every brand completely works, so you have to test it out. So this is marte black, and it is 70 grams paint, 140 grams Australian floetrol, and 22 grams water. So you mix it up and make sure it's mixed very, very well. You don't want any slight inconsistencies in it, because it does show up in the artwork sometimes. Not every time, but I find it can do that. So now, just going to put these colours aside slightly. So what we want to do is pour about, about 2/3 to 3/4 off onto the canvas. Then you want to coat the canvas, and I find you are best to cover the sides as well, not just the top. Just means that it comes out a little bit more even all over. So I just use my palette knife, but you can use your spatula or anything that you like, as long as it's covered. The sides are more important to cover than the actual top. If you've left a tiny gapo on the top somewhere, it's not going to hurt the artwork. But if you have the sides covered, it just means if you don't tip off completely on that side, you know that there's actually paint there. When I usually always do cover all sides, but just in case, it's better to have it coated with paint instead of trying to fix it up later on. So I just run my knife around, pushing it around. The paint's a good consistency. It's not too thin and it's not too thick. So it actually covers quite well while still being fluidic, if that makes sense. And we still want paint on the canvas too, so don't make it too thin. I find don't tilt it, because otherwise you end up losing too much paint early on when you actually need the paint to be there. for when you actually do the pouring. So I'm doing this gentle, it doesn't hurt the canvas, it just sounds a little bit rough sometimes on the wood part. You can do this on a deep canvas or this thin-sided canvas as I have here. I should actually do this on a deep canvas because you do get quite cool effects on the sides as well. So if you're not interested in this part, you can skip forward. It is usually when I talk, because I can think, it's not too much concentrating, so I can actually talk. Sorry if my head's in the way. It's just the best way for me to get to this back part of the canvas. And one thing I will say is, with your actual corner, just double check them, because sometimes once they get wet, they separate a little bit, and it does show a tiny little bit of white. So now that we've got that done, I'm just going to cover the canvas, but try not to push too much of the paint actually off the edge. Oops, like I'm doing there. You just want the black there so it flows easy enough. Doesn't matter if you lose a bit of paint, there's still tons on this canvas. Okay, now just spread the excess black around so it's even-ish. Even-ish is good enough. Okay, just gonna wipe. I keep putting my paper towel somewhere. No, I've misplaced my paper towel. Oh well, I'll just do that. I like to clean my tools off while it's wet. It's actually easier because if you let it dry on there, it's harder to get off. So now we have the rest of what's left in the cup. If you end up putting a little bit less on the canvas and leave more in the cup, that's fine. Now, what I want to do is, you just give them a little stir before you start pouring. But you want to pour this from a bit of a height. You want it to smash down and get as deep as possible into this cup. But I'm only going to pour half. There we go. Now, the lavender frost, and I usually find it works out quite well if I just turn my cup a little bit so I'm not pouring exactly over the top of the other one. There's half of that. And the sterling silver will look like pearl. It actually comes out quite white and not so silvery. When it dries it gets a little bit more silvery, but it's different to normal silver. I've got more of this than I do normal silver, so I thought I'd use it. Half of that. So you're trying to pour from a height. It doesn't matter if some sits on top because it's going to anyway. And I just slightly turn the cup each time I do this. Smash it down. Now the last bit that comes out the cup is just going to sit on top of the paint. That's absolutely fine. Do not worry about that. And just try and get as much of your extreme sheen in the cup as possible because you don't want to waste it. This is One of the best paints I find of all. I love it. Now the next colour. So you can add more extreme sheen than what I have added, but if you add too much, you will actually get a painting that does not have hardly any black in it, but just colour. And as pretty as it sounds in theory, you actually need the black to give the artwork the contrast that it needs. So and I probably didn't have to use such a big cup. It wasn't until I was mixing my paints I realized I grabbed my paper cup one size too big. Paper cups are better to use because you can bend the cup to a spout compared to a plastic cup, which you can't really do. And I forgot to do one little thing, which is an optional thing. I'm just going to get the bubbles out of this black that's on the canvas. Just quickly, there we go. That is optional, but I just wanted to do it because sometimes it's harder to get them out later on. Now, can you see in there, so some sitting on the top, but other parts have sank down. So now just bend the cup to a spout. It doesn't really matter what side. Got paint all over me. Now, start down a little bit lower and let some of the paint sit on top, and then bring your cup up high and let it go down into a real proper dirty pour. And now I'm going to come down lower and I'm going to let the colour sit on top. I usually like to do this until it starts wanting to drip. I'm not as keen on the effects that drips give, but this little slow, steady stream is fine. Oops, it's going to drip. There we go. Not a lot sat on top, but that's okay. Now this is full of bubbles. So I'm going to give it another quick little torch. I don't know if you could see that, but there was like thousands of bubbles popping. Absolute tons. Now, my pack of gloves is empty, so I'm just opening up a new packet. Now we're just letting this settle down for a little bit, letting the paint kind of think about what it wants to do. Okay, gloves on, and nice and tight so it's easier for me, I don't slip around. Now how you pour this is really up to you. That center part is the main thing you need to watch. You want that pattern to stay as how you want it to be. If it looks like it's going really funny and out of shape, don't actually keep tilting or whatever. You got to kind of watch that. But for now, we do need to go over all four edges though. So I am just moving it around a little bit. And if I swirl it at first, I will make that center part larger. I usually do this on a rectangle canvas, not a circle. Okay. I'm going to go off this bottom corner now. So I've come down, done a full circle, and then I'm going to come over this way, tilt over that edge, and then come back to the center. I'm going to go the opposite edge. And the whole time I'm watching that center part. I'm going over the edge and coming back. Sorry if I go out of camera angle or the lighting. Sometimes it's not so easy. I needed another light, but the shops have run out. So I've got to wait for them to get more stock in. And then over this side, which that worked out quite well. Now I've got one more left. Which is this one. Paint does feel a little bit thicker than it has before. The weather's cooling down. So now I'm bringing my paint back to the middle and see my center part, how it's quite enlarged. But what I would like to do is I think I want to get a little bit more paint off. So I'm going to go all the way back over to this corner, pour a bit off. Still watching a bug just flew in. Bugs will ruin this if they get into it. They make squiggles and weird patterns. So bringing it back up. Now coming down to this corner. And I'm going to try and tip off some of this without tipping off my main center part of my picture. But I am stretching it a lot. Okay. It touched, see the bottom part, how it touched the edge? Once it touches the side, it won't move. The rest will, but it won't. This is actually feeling quite thick. I've got a feeling it's the weather changing and thickening up my paints. Which sometimes can be good, but sometimes it can be bad. Especially with pearl pours. You actually need some of the paint to tip over. I'm not going to tip off any more now. I hope I'm still in camera angle for you guys. So, with this, my best bet now is to let it settle in and watch for pearls to form. Let me wipe my fingers. Actually, I'm going to get my gloves off. I don't want to tip any more off now because I've kind of got, I can see shimmer and pearls coming up around these edges, and over here and there, I've still got part of the straight pour that I did at the beginning. So this whole section from here all the way down there and here is all from when I brought the cup back down closer for a straight pour instead of the dirty pour where I was holding it up. When I held it up high, that dirty pour is all through these edges, all around there, through into this, and some of this is straight pour as well over the edges. So now, all I want to do is just double check that I do have paint on my corners, and I'm going to scrape the underneath. Yeah, that corner could have done with. Okay. Now I have done that, and I've got paint going everywhere. I can see pearls forming. They're not super strong in colour. A lot of them are quite light, but that could be them still wanting to come to the surface. The darkest purple part I can see is that one little patch right there. Let's see if I can get a bit of reaction with the torch, as well as pop any last bubbles that are still there. So I'm just heating it up at the same time as I pop those bubbles. Okay, that's enough. Don't let that torch go near anything it can burn. So more and more pearls are forming over here, even up into the straight pour, around here, and across through all this section. The only part that won't change much will be this. It might swell a little bit, but it won't really. You won't really get pearls in this one kind of last bit here, because that was the straight pour. Now, I have to just let this settle down. Because it's cold, it might take longer. It might take 15 to 20 minutes instead of 10 to 15 to see how many more pearls form. Pearls are forming, but they're not as strong in their colour as I was hoping. So I think it could just be that they're a little bit slower to push through. But they might have blended too much and decided they're just going to come out kind of silvery. But that's the fun part. Like I said before, you don't really know how it's going to work. And different colours will behave a little bit differently too. So let's pause this and see what happens when we come back in about 15 minutes. Okay, we're back. So more has developed. The only thing is, it's not super strong in the colour. It looks like they are purple. So there is amethyst and lavender frost in there. They're just not as bold. Like that part there is definitely quite purple. These other areas are purple-ish. They haven't really got that deep colour that the original one with the aquamarine and sapphire gave me. I do think that because the black was a little bit thicker, because it's colder, it had a little bit harder time pushing through. So this has been about 15 minutes, but there's still lots of cool effects. And because everything that has come up is metallic, it will shimmer and it will look better once it has dried and had time to actually show its potential. At the moment, it's hard to always tell when it's still a wet artwork, but as you can see, by doing a straight pour, half straight pour and half dirty pour, the dirty pour is going to give you all these pearls. So it's virtually like a pearl pour in a way, but then this straight pour gives you this kind of option to give yourself different effects. And depending on where you pour that, if you decide to pour that more closer to an edge or closer to the middle, you can kind of direct where you have this other feature. So the other feature comes up quite differently. It sits on top and probably shines a little bit more in a different way. I am going to do this again in a couple more days, but I've got different colours picked out. The extreme sheens are starting to get really hard at getting many colours at the moment. So I'm so low on a couple of colours that I'm hesitant using them because I don't know when I'm going to be able to get them again. A little bit frustrating. but I'm going to do my best to get some more colours, and then I can just go, yep, this is what I want to do. But in saying that, I still love this. I've still got a good amount of metallic that has come through. The only parts that are quite plain in their black is this little patch here and a little patch there. But that's actually good because it actually highlights the silver around it by having the dark part there. And all these pearls are going to shimmer and light up. It may still alter a little bit in time, but I don't think it will very much. I'm not getting very much more coming off the sides. Do continue to scrape your canvas probably every 5 minutes until you stop seeing drips. It's just the paint coming off, but you don't want it to pull too much of your artwork. It will continue to change your artwork if you allow it to stay there and to pull the colours off. So, in saying that, this is how it is now. I'm going to bring you down for a close-up and try this out. Do it different ways. If you want to, you could even use a different cup. Instead of using the same cup that you poured the black out of, pour half of it into a cup, pour your extreme sheens into that half, and then pour the rest of it on top, and then you'll get different effects again. Each time you do it, if you do it slightly different, you'll always get different effects come through, and it will just show slightly different styles. But I'm still loving this. I just wanted a bit more richer purple to come through, but it might happen as it dries. So let's come down for a close-up. So here we go, and again, it's still not, I'm going to change my angle soon so you can see, but that there is the straight pour part at the end, and this is the pearl pour. See how, there we go, see that angle? You can see there is pearls and metallic shimmer coming up all the way through it. You just got to get the right angle for it to actually be quite noticeable. It's just not as purple. See that part there, you can definitely see has got a purple colouring into it. The other stuff is kind of stayed a little bit. There is purple. The camera's not picking it up. It's just picking up the sheen. But it's not as deep a rich as that one little patch right there in the centre. So this is the straight pour part through here. And this is the dirty pour part where these pearls come up. Same with all the way down here. That's all a dirty pour. Also remember, I poured extra off this bottom sides, so I did lose a lot of the straight pour parts and just got mostly dirty pour, which is pearls. I needed to get extra paint off and the paint to rub against each other to create more pearls and effects. But this is the artwork. So I hope you guys liked it. It's different again, and each time I do it, I'm going to get slightly different effects, and your paint consistency will make a difference as well. So we'll just have to work on that at a different time. But I hope you guys, let me see if adjusting this contrast shows you more or not. Well, that there does. That doesn't show the colour, but it shows all the pearls and the metallics. So I hope you guys like this. Let me know what you think. So like, comment, share and subscribe. And if you do one of these, let me know, or if you're in any of the art groups that I'm in, tag me so I can actually have a look to see what you've done, because I love seeing what everyone creates. Yeah, and just have fun. This is the best part. Have fun. Don't always overstress about things. So enjoy your evening, and I'll see you soon for another pour. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.